if you're sitting at your kitchen table right now, just staring at a laptop with like 20 different browser tabs open, trying to research a new car, I really want to start by offering some deep sympathy.
Oh, it's a nightmare. It really is.
It is incredibly overwhelming out there right now. You are caught between all these shifting technologies, wildly fluctuating prices, and just a massive barrage of opinions from everyone.
Yeah, everyone has an opinion.
Right. Buying a car today, it feels less like this exciting life milestone and more like a high-stakes gamble where you're terrified of making a $30,000 mistake.
Absolutely. And you know, what if I told you that the number one reason a modern $1 million EV supercomputer leaves you stranded on the highway is the exact same reason your grandfather's old tractor wouldn't start?
Wait, really? The exact same reason?
The exact same reason. It's this perfect paradox of modern engineering. And I mean, it perfectly illustrates why this specific moment in the automotive industry is just so confusing for buyers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We are living through a massive structural transformation, but the good news is the fog is finally clearing. The data we're looking at today from the Analisi Comparativa del Mercato Globale dei Veicoli Elettrici 2025-2026.
That's the 2025-2026 Global EV Market Comparative Analysis.
Right, thank you. That report proves we've crossed a definitive threshold.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission for this deep dive today is absolute clarity. The overarching takeaway from that 2025 and 2026 data is that this window right now, this is the turning point.
It really is. We've firmly moved out of that, experimental tech phase that was basically just for high-spending early adopters.
Yeah, the beta testers.
Exactly. Electric vehicles are now the foundational backbone of global manufacturing. They're mainstream.
Right. And to understand this new reality, we have to look at these fierce new battlegrounds. We're talking price, build quality, and long-term reliability.
Which means we need to tackle the single biggest source of buyer anxiety straight on.
The fear of a dead battery.
Yes. The dead battery panic. It's a hangover from early generation electronics. Like, people think of their old smartphones dying after a year.
Right, exactly. But the numbers tell a completely different story now, don't they?
Oh, totally. The reliability gap between traditional gas cars and EVs is vanishing. I mean, look at the data. In 2024, EVs were presenting 79% more problems compared to gas or diesel vehicles.
Wow, 79%.
Yeah, but that was mostly due to software integration bugs and new assembly line quirks. But by 2025, that gap plummeted to just 42%.
That's a huge drop in 1 year.
The learning curve for these manufacturers has been extraordinarily fast. They're mastering the software handshakes, tightening the manufacturing tolerances, all of it.
And the data really destroys the ultimate myth, too. Like the dreaded brick car scenario.
Oh, where your battery degrades and you're left with a useless paperweight.
Exactly. Looking at the Geotab and generational study of over 30,000 electric vehicles for this 2025 and 2026 window, the average battery degradation is sitting at just 2.3% per year.
That is incredibly low.
Right. That means if you buy a car today, after 8 full years of driving, the battery still retains over 81% of its original capacity.
Yeah, and even vehicles pushed way past 150,000 kilometers are maintaining a state of health between 88 and 95%.
So they're outlasting the rest of the car, basically.
Pretty much. What's happening beneath the floorboards is a masterclass in thermal management. Early batteries degraded because they got too hot during fast charging or too cold during winter parking.
Right. Extreme temperatures kill batteries.
Exactly. But modern battery management systems, or BMS, they actively heat and cool the cells using these liquid channels. It keeps the chemistry in its absolute optimal temperature zone. The hardware just isn't working as hard as it used to.
Which brings us back to that irony you mentioned at the start, the tractor thing.
Yes. The tractor.
The data shows the most common reason an EV breaks down isn't that massive traction battery failing. It is the ancient, standard 12-volt auxiliary battery dying and shutting down all the computers.
It's maddening. You have this massive energy reserve sitting right under your feet, but you're locked out of the car because a tiny lead-acid battery died.
It's literally like having $1 million supercomputer crash because the AA battery in your wireless mouse died.
That is exactly what it's like. But what's fascinating here is the safety architecture.
Okay, how so?
Well, you have a high-voltage battery to move the wheels, right? But high voltage is incredibly dangerous. So all the logic boards, the screens, the door handle...
It's the thing you touch.
Right. And most importantly, the safety contactors that physically connect the big battery to the rest of the car, all of that runs on a separate 12-volt system.
Oh, okay.
So if that 12-volt battery dies, The car literally cannot close the relays to turn on its own high-voltage system to recharge it. It's a necessary safety firewall, but man, it creates a highly visible failure point.
That makes total sense, but it's still frustrating. But wait, if the big batteries are fine and we ignore the 12-volt issue for a second, what is actually breaking on these cars?
Well, the physical wear and tear has shifted entirely. Maintenance is moving from the engine bay to the wheel wells.
Because of the weight.
Exactly. Because of the sheer mass of these battery packs, the mechanical components are under immense kinetic stress.
Like suspension and brakes.
Right. Suspension parts, bushings, brakes. We're seeing this particularly on heavy models like the Tesla Model 3 and the Ford Mustang Mach-E. They're showing much higher than average wear rates.
It's just simple physics, I guess.
Yeah.
You can't add 1,000 pounds of battery to a chassis and expect the control arms to last as long as they did on a lightweight sedan.
Precisely. And this is exactly why the top reliability crowns for 2025 and 2026 went to the BMW i4 and the Nissan Ariya.
Oh, that makes total sense. BMW and Nissan aren't trying to reinvent the entire concept of a car.
No, not at all.
They're taking decades of legacy experience in building robust suspensions and quiet interiors, and simply translating that into an electric drivetrain. They already know how to build a chassis that handles weight.
Exactly. And because that baseline anxiety over battery lifespan and drivetrain reliability has largely been solved now, the entire market has pivoted.
To what?
Well, it's no longer an engineering race to prove the technology actually works. It's now an economics race. It's about who can deliver premium features at the most accessible price point.
Which leads us directly into what the industry is calling the Korean democratization.
Oh, this is a huge shift.
Yeah, the Kia EV3 taking World Car of the Year 2025 is the perfect case study here. Hyundai and Kia have just aggressively stepped into this vacuum of affordable utility.
They really have.
I mean, EV3 starts around 24,000 euros in certain markets.
Which is wild.
And for that, you're getting 605 kilometers of range on the WLTP cycle, sustainable interiors, and a charge time of 10% to 80% in just 31 minutes.
Yeah.
Getting those numbers at that price point used to be literally impossible.
Right. And the secret to that pricing is their underlying platform, the eGMP.
What does that do differently?
So, Hyundai and Kia invested heavily early on in a modular 800-volt architecture. In the past, 800-volt systems were reserved for ultra-luxury cars, like the Porsche Taycan.
Oh, wow. So really high-end stuff.
Yeah. By doubling the voltage from the standard 400 volts, you can use thinner wiring, you generate way less heat, and you push electrons into the battery much faster.
And Korea just scaled that down?
Exactly. What they did brilliantly was scale that high-end architecture down to everyday family compacts. By sharing the exact same skateboard platform across multiple models, they drastically reduced the R&D cost per vehicle.
They are squeezing every drop of efficiency out of that modularity. You see the same thing with the Hyundai Ioniq 6, which pushes past 600 kilometers of range purely by mastering aerodynamics.
They're dominating that middle tier.
But while Korea is democratizing the hardware, Tesla is in a very unfamiliar position right now.
Yeah, they are no longer the lone disruptor in the room.
Not at all. For 2025 and 2026, their entire strategy seems to be about maturation and fixing legacy complaints.
Tesla is actively responding to a maturing consumer base. You know, early adopters, they forgave panel gaps and wind noise because the drivetrain was revolutionary.
Right. It was cool, so you ignored the rattling.
Exactly. But today's buyers will not forgive that. The Model 3 Highland update is a direct response to this. They added acoustic glass all around, they completely overhauled the suspension to absorb bumps better, and introduced soft-touch materials.
They're trying to feel like a German car.
Yeah, attempting to match that cabin refinement of legacy German automakers while still maintaining this unmatched highway efficiency of around 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
I mean, I see the refinement, but I really have to push back on some of their design choices.
The stalks.
Yes. Removing the physical stalks for the turn signals and the gear selector on the Highland update feels like a massive regression in user experience.
It's definitely controversial.
Is removing basic controls actually innovation? Or is it just making the car harder to use for the sake of minimalism? Like, forcing a driver to hunt for a haptic button on a steering wheel while navigating a roundabout just seems dangerous.
It is a deeply polarizing choice, for sure, and it forces drivers to unlearn decades of muscle memory.
Yeah.
But if we look at why Tesla still maintains a massive lead in overall usability scores, it all comes down to ecosystem integration. They might frustrate you with a turn signal button, but they eliminate all the friction of route planning and charging.
Okay, fair point.
Their native adoption of the NACS charging standard means drivers use one universal plug. They've built a software moat around their supercharger network that legacy automakers are still really struggling to replicate.
Yeah, that charging reliability is just a massive shield for them. But while the West is arguing over cabin noise and steering wheel buttons, there is a seismic disruption arriving from the East.
Oh, absolutely. The 2025 and 2026 numbers confirm it.
Chinese vehicles are no longer just budget alternatives. They have arrived as technological superiors.
Yeah, the defining metric of 2025 was BYD officially surpassing Tesla in total global sales volume.
Which is a huge milestone.
Massive. And Western automakers are struggling to compete with BYD because of their total vertical integration. They don't just assemble the cars, they own the entire supply chain, down to mining the raw materials and manufacturing their own microchips.
That's insane.
But their ultimate leverage is the blade battery.
Right, the LFP chemistry. Lithium iron phosphate. BYD has completely leaned into this, and it changes the safety and longevity equation entirely, right?
Totally. Traditional lithium-ion batteries use nickel and cobalt, which are super energy dense, but they're prone to thermal runaway.
Meaning they catch fire.
Exactly. If they are punctured, they release oxygen, essentially feeding their own fire. It's really hard to put out.
Wow.
But LFP chemistry has much stronger molecular bonds. In BYD's extreme puncture tests, where they literally drive a steel nail right through the battery cells, they do not catch fire. They just quietly vent.
That's incredible.
And because they are so thermally stable, BYD can pack the cells much tighter without needing heavy, expensive cooling armor.
And the longevity is just staggering. I mean, the data cites a lifespan of over 3,000 charging cycles.
Which translates to what?
Over 1 million kilometers of driving. So when BYD drops a car like the Seal into the European market, which is a direct luxury competitor to the Model 3, starting at just 34,000 euros, it completely upends the traditional value equation.
It really does.
But if BYD is rewriting the hardware rules, Xiaomi is entirely rewriting the software paradigm.
Yeah.
The Xiaomi SU7 is the data point that actually made me stop and reread the analysis.
Oh, the SU7. It represents a fundamental shift in the very definition of what an automaker even is.
Right, because Xiaomi is a consumer electronics giant. They make smartphones, smart TVs, home appliances.
Exactly. Legacy car companies have spent a century perfecting chassis dynamics, but let's be honest, they are notoriously terrible at writing software.
Oh, completely terrible.
Xiaomi already knows how to write world-class software, so they simply decided to build a chassis around it.
And what a chassis it is. The 2026 SU7 Max operates on an 897-volt architecture, pushes out 690 horsepower, and hits 100 kilometers per hour in 2.6 seconds.
It's basically a supercar.
Yeah. And they pulled in 100,000 orders in 2 weeks. But you're right, the horsepower is just the wrapping paper. The real disruption here is HyperOS.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the SU7 isn't just a vehicle anymore, it is a node in a digital ecosystem. HyperOS seamlessly synchronizes your phone, your smart home appliances, and your car. You can literally turn on your living room lights from the steering wheel, and your car's navigation seamlessly picks up a map search you started on your phone in the kitchen.
That is wild.
The Chinese market recognizes that the barrier to entry is no longer mechanical engineering, it's computing power.
And they're attacking the luxury segment with that exact same speed. Look at Zeekr, backed by Geely. Their 7X SUV is leveraging platforms shared with Volvo and Polestar, offering 600 horsepower, suede interiors, 800-volt charging, all while drastically undercutting European luxury pricing.
It's a very aggressive strategy.
That begs the question. Faced with vertical integration from BYD, smartphone-level software from Xiaomi, and the economies of scale from Hyundai and Kia,
how does the European auto industry even survive?
well, Europe is counterpunching by leaning into niche utility and grid economics.
Okay, grid economics.
Yeah, they're realizing they cannot win a pure horsepower or screen size war against China. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Instead, they are innovating around the daily reality of dense urban living in Europe and turning the vehicle into a yielding financial asset.
Oh, the Renault 5 E-Tech is the perfect example of this pivot.
Yes, exactly.
With this brilliant, nostalgic design starting under 23,000 euros. But the killer feature is V2G, vehicle-to-grid bidirectional charging.
This is huge. Instead of just pulling power from your house, the car can act as a battery buffer for your entire neighborhood. You plug it in, and the grid buys power from your car during peak evening hours when electricity is really expensive.
And then it just recharges itself at 3 a.m. when wind power is cheap and abundant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It completely changes the math of ownership. You're engaging in automated grid arbitrage. The data suggests an owner could potentially save or earn up to €800 a year just by letting their car sit in the driveway plugged in.
It literally offsets the depreciation of the asset itself.
It's so smart.
Yeah.
And then you have the pure pragmatism of the Fiat Grande Panda, which took Auto d'Europa 2026.
Oh, I love the Grande Panda.
It's built on the Stellantis smart car platform, priced around €24,900. It doesn't have a massive battery, but it features a built-in retractable spiral charging cable right in the front grille.
Yes. Anyone who has ever wrestled a wet, dirty charging cable into a trunk during a rainstorm knows that this is just genius-level simplicity.
It solves a massive friction point for city dwellers. You just pull it out, plug it in, and let it retract.
But, speaking of friction points, we really have to look closely at real-world operating costs.
Yeah, the money.
The 2026 data for markets like Italy provides a very stark reality check here. The quote-unquote fuel cost for an EV is no longer a fixed commodity price. It is entirely dependent on your charging strategy.
I was running the math on a standard home grid connection, like no solar panels, no battery buffer, just plugging it into the wall.
Yeah.
Even at a standard rate of about 30 cents per kilowatt hour, you're looking at roughly €4.80 to drive 100 kilometers.
Which is great. That's still a massive undercut, representing about a 65% savings over an equivalent gas or diesel car.
Okay, so that's the standard baseline.
Right. The ideal scenario, of course, is charging at home utilizing a solar photovoltaic system with local storage. In that setup, the cost drops to an incredible 8 cents per kilowatt hour.
Wow.
Which means just €1.28 per 100 kilometers.
That is basically driving for free.
Woo!
But there is a trap waiting for uninformed buyers, isn't there?
A huge trap.
The public charging network.
Exactly. If you rely heavily on public, highway, ultra-fast chargers without subscribing to a dedicated network plan, those pay-as-you-go prices can spike to 85 or even 95 cents per kilowatt hour.
Ouch.
Yeah. At those rates, driving 100 kilometers costs nearly €15. That is actually more expensive than driving an efficient diesel vehicle.
So what does this all mean?
It means you will lose money on road trips if you treat an EV charger exactly like a gas station. You can't just pull up and swipe your card blindly.
Right. You have to buy a monthly flat-rate subscription from the charging networks, which brings that highway cost back down to around 39 cents per kilowatt hour. Buying the car is only step one. You absolutely must have your charging infrastructure planned out before you take delivery.
Totally agree. But if you do that planning, the economics are undeniable, especially with government interventions right now.
Like the Italian incentives.
Yeah, the 2026 Italian eco-bonus incentives, for example, they are aggressively pushing adoption. Depending on your income bracket and the scrapping of highly polluting older vehicles, buyers can access up to €11,000 in incentives.
€11,000.
Yeah. That drops the entry price of highly capable cars like the Renault 5 or the Citroën EC3 well below the €20,000 threshold.
And that €20,000 mark is where mass adoption just becomes entirely unstoppable.
Absolutely.
So looking at this massive stack of 2025 and 2026 data, the landscape is finally clear. EV anxiety is officially dying.
It's gone.
Battery longevity is mathematically proven by the Geotab data. Prices are being driven down by the modular efficiency of the Kia EV3, and the technological ceiling is being totally shattered by BYD's chemistry and Xiaomi's computing power.
But we cannot count out the legacy brands just yet.
Very true.
Looking toward 2027, you have the Mercedes-Benz CLA winning Car of the Year 2026 in Europe. It signals that the old guard is striking back. They're rolling out these incredibly aerodynamic, ultra-efficient platforms, promising over 700 kilometers of range.
The competitive pressure is just forcing everyone to elevate their engineering. It truly is a golden age of automotive innovation.
It really is an exciting time to watch the industry.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Building on that Renault 5 and its bidirectional charging capability.
Oh, this is a mind-bender.
If our vehicles can now store massive amounts of energy, power our homes during winter blackouts, and autonomously sell electricity back to the grid during peak hours to stabilize neighborhood power loads, are we even buying cars anymore?
Good question.
Or are we actually purchasing mobile power plants that just happen to have steering wheels and stereos? It profoundly changes what a vehicle's purpose is in our society.
It is a complete redefinition of the relationship between transportation and global energy infrastructure.
It really is. Listen, I want to take a moment to sincerely thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We know exactly how incredibly valuable your time is, and we know how noisy, confusing, and overwhelming the world feels right now, especially when you are staring down a major life purchase like a new vehicle. Our entire goal today was to help clear that fog for you.
And hopefully we did.
We genuinely hope you're walking away from this conversation feeling empowered, clear-headed, and a lot less anxious about the modern car market. Until next time, keep exploring.